Hey everybody, welcome to the show. Before we get started, I have to tell you about HelloFresh. I just had some yesterday. They were sandwiches and they were absolutely delicious. And that's just one of the delicious meals. That's right, it's like sandwiches. I've tried through HelloFresh. With over 50 menu and market items to choose from each week, you'll never run out of dishes to try. Get 16 free meals plus 3 gifts with code Valleycast16 at HelloFresh.com/Valleycast16. Just go to HelloFresh.com/Valleycast16 to get up to 16 free meals plus 3 free gifts, maybe even some sandwiches. Now, let's start the Valleycast. Yay!
Like watching movies, so I watch people guess them instead. I don't know how it goes. I think it starts with your show.
Do you guys have a favorite? Ad? Ad? Can you say that? Is that something you're allowed to?
Yeah,
I mean, HelloFresh is the best.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
On some
Really
of,
is.
oh yeah, HelloFresh is great because they're so delicious, right?
So good. They're so delicious. And you can actually go to...
One time I made a meal for myself using HelloFresh, and then I dumped everything into a blender, and I blended it up into pure liquid, and then I didn't use my mouth.
Yeah, you.
I did chug it. I did chug it, but I
chugged. How else are you
it.
supposed to get the nutrients?
I wanted that in my body fast.
You want to feel the effects immediately.
I wanted it. I wanted it fast.
The funnel you used was one of the 1 free gifts.
Yeah. Well, yes.
One of the 3 gifts, excuse me.
And it's like, like when you go to a smoke shop where it's like we all know what the funnel's for, but they got to say it's for everything.
We
love a funnel. We love a funnel.
Well, we know what it's for.
In this house, we got many funnels. Guys, I want to say...
Joe looks different.
Joe does look a little different today, doesn't he? Guys, welcome to the Valleycast. We've got a special guest today. DJ, you've been on here before.
I have.
You're no stranger to this valley.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
You've been all up in these
Valleyfolk.
peaks.
A lot of peaks, a lot of valleys.
Yeah, you've been down in our valley for a while, and you and I go way back.
Yeah.
And for those of you who are listening that are like, who the fuck is this bastard? This hijo de puta.
Whoa.
Sorry.
Not on 4th of July.
On a sacred day.
Don't use Spanish on 4th of July.
Don't do that.
That's not what this day's about.
So distasteful.
It is 4th of July while we record this, but when you guys listen to this, it will no longer be the 4th of July. And what is the 4th of July other than a massive celebration of patriotism, which I will not be participating in this year.
Yeah. Not feeling terribly patriotic this year.
Not really. I kind of want to do a bunch of communist shit today.
I feel that.
What do you think I should do, Elliot? What do you think I should do if I wanted to participate in communism today?
I guess you should take everything that you have and just give it away, man.
Whoa!
Let's all go organize an Amazon warehouse. Let's all.
Let's go.
I'll retweet AOC.
Yeah, there you go. Boom, boom.
But DJ, we're not just having you on today for giggles and shits. That's for dogs. Today we have you here because you're doing some exciting work out there in the comic book world. You're DJ, you are just a really hardworking man, and you've got visions and you've got ideas. You're an ideasman. And you just love comics and movies and nerd shit. And this is how we've always connected. And we became good friends because of it. But you aren't just a viewer, watcher, reader. You are also a creator of said things, and you've been working on this comic book Hellbent for quite a while now, right? Tell us all about it.
So I was on. You guys were so lovely to have me last year to talk about Hellbent Volume 1. This is Hellbent Volume 2. It is the continuation of the journey of Jezzy and Nick. Jezzy is a trans woman with incredible supernatural abilities, and Nick is an occult assassin dedicated to defending her from a cult of religious fanatics that are hot on their trail. So this is like any good sequel. It deepens the world. It expands the world. It tries to experiment with the formula we laid out with the first one. So we've got a little bit more action, a little bit more mysticism. We learned a little bit more about the secret organization Nick works for. And Heather Vaughn is back as our interior artist, along with a bunch of incredibly great guest artists. Yeah,
dude, and you got some great guest artists to do covers and stuff like that.
Yeah. We got Davi Go and Jen St. Ange, who do incredible work. I felt so lucky that they were willing to collaborate. And yeah, I'm just really happy. You just want to keep improving. And I feel like this improves on what we laid out for Volume 1. And for anybody listening that missed out on Volume 1, there are tiers where you can get Volume 1 as well. Both Volumes 1 and 2 get the complete story.
So we'll dig into Hellbent more, but I want to know, like, this must be kind of difficult, right? Because what's the comic book like what's going on in the comic book world right now? Like, how are comics doing? And do you think is this the time, or are we going to have like a comic book like boom again? Because it feels like comic books. Like, what's the state of comic books right now, DJ? Tell us.
I think the state of comic books is like pretty much the state of everything else, which is in flux. It depends on who you ask and when you ask them and what's going on. And I think in a lot of ways, what we're seeing is a great opportunity for stuff outside of like the big two, like Marvel and DC, like a lot of like more indie stuff, a lot of like non-superhero related stuff, which is really cool.
I've always loved indie comics. Like I grew up loving Spider-Man and Batman and the ones that you gravitate towards when you're a kid.
Yeah.
And then I remember being like, well, these are cool and the superhero stuff is fine. And I get it. We got like people fighting for justice with like really nuanced characters and things like that. And that's basically what comic books were when I was a kid. But then I was like, as I grew up, I started to find the indie comic world. Yeah. And I was like, oh shit, you can do whatever the fuck you want in the indie comic book world. Yep. And there's just so much weird shit like Milk and Cheese and like Sam and Max and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. Like I remember reading Milk and Cheese and Elliot. Milk and Cheese. Have you heard of this, DJ?
You know what? I have not. I have not. It's Sam and Max, I was on board for Milk and Cheese.
This is going back and forth. Like, is this a real thing? Or
no, Milk and Cheese is real, and it's literally. It was about a little carton of milk and a block of cheese. That were like real violent nightmare characters that would cause all sorts of mischief. And because you guys are like, man, this is probably a bit. Steve's
I'm looking it up right
now. Here, I'm gonna pull it up for you guys. Here, I'll do it for you. You don't have to do it, and you don't have to do it. So here, look, Milk and Cheese is like, and the art was really cool, like big, thick, giant eyebrows. And they would do really violent, awful shit. Hang on, my internet's being a little dumb bitch. Sorry, not on 4th of July.
Please. We don't disparage the internet on the 4th of July.
Don't look up indie comics on the 4th of July.
Not on the 4th of July.
But yeah, look at this. They're like in a Comic Con and they're like killing all these like Star Wars fans.
That's insane.
That's what you insane. Loser nerds get for clogging up your George Lucas Uber aisles. Yeah, it's like
that's so much reading.
Yeah, it's really it's like, you know, it's violent.
A lot of text.
It's violent and disgusting. And I was like, man, you can be violent and disgusting in the comic book world.
Yeah.
And I thought that was really cool. But the indie comics is where it's at for me. And do you feel, DJ, that that's where your stuff belongs?
100%. Because here's the blessing and the curse of comics is that that is not where you go to make money.
No.
Yeah, that's not where you go to make money. And so like nobody you've got less fingers in the pie, or whatever metaphor is the
Sure.
correct one to use.
I think you got it.
Yeah, there's just less people on your ass about stuff,
Right.
and so and that is, I think that's true to a degree with the big two, but like the indie stuff, like for us, a big inspiration for this comic is all the old Vertigo books. So
Yeah.
Sandman, Preacher, The Invisibles, stuff that really like push the boundaries of what, especially when you're talking about like the 80s and early 90s, of what you thought comics were capable of.
Yeah.
And again, it's just because you don't have to worry about, you don't have to run it by Disney standards and practices. You know what I mean? You can just do whatever you think the story entails and whatever you think your readers will respond to.
See, I love that.
Yeah.
And because you just get to do whatever the fuck you want.
Yeah.
Let me ask you a question, DJ.
Yes.
How's your hand doing, Elliot?
It's getting there. It's not hurting so much anymore. It's just still the same size, but the doctor says it'll grow back at some point, and just stay patient and keep
been a
my
bit.
shit up about it. Yeah. So I remember you talking about this the first time you came on, and I'm interested to know what the connection is between you personally and some of the themes in the actual story, such as mysticism. You got occults going on, stuff going on. You got religious zealots going on.
Yeah.
Is that topics that you're interested in, or is it stuff that you've sort of come across that you wanted to incorporate because it kind of makes it magical and weird and crazy?
So my co-writer Jana and I, we actually met each other when we were in high school in church. We were part of the same Baptist church, and so I was a major part of that community, and it had a pretty significant impact on my life, one that I'm still processing to this day. Not entirely negative, you know what I mean? Like, I know when a lot of people talk like that, it was an important part of my socialization as a kid, but obviously it has a major impact on this country as well, and so it's kind of us unpacking a lot of that history. And also, like, if you spend time in that, like I might have mentioned this last time too, when you're a part of that group, they're like, oh yeah, read the Bible, but I don't actually think they expect you to do it, because when you do it, you're like, wait, this isn't what you're talking about. Like, this doesn't line up with what you're saying. And so, like, processing that as well, and also using it to, and not just the Bible stuff. Like, I've had some people be like, why the Bible stuff? I was like, well, that's because what we know, like, we're not, you know what I mean? But also when it comes to being a fan of genre fiction, fantasy stuff and everything, kind of like exploring, really breaking it down instead of just accepting something as a trope or whatever. So, like, when we talk about, we did this in volume 1, when we talk about God, within the context of our story, God's not like a dude with a white beard up in the clouds. If you're talking about God, it's like, well, you're talking about an abstract creative entity that's so far beyond consciousness, referring to that entity as a he or as any, it would have to be non-binary. Limited. Because it's beyond our own conception. So doing stuff like that,
I think, is the technical term.
Yeah.
Apophatic. You can't, anything you say about it becomes automatically false because it's so grand that your language could never possibly capture. Let's pray.
I wish that was well, it was Elliot. Actually, you bring up a good point, because it was Corinthians 2:36 that actually mentioned.
It was.
Yeah.
But
we're all on the same page.
I like it. I thank you, Elliot. Elliot's gonna come bring a Bible over so we can get in here.
Corinthians 2:36.
Yes, I did. If that even exists.
No,
but dude,
yeah.
DJ, I like, and Elliot's gonna find it. Can't wait to read it and then have it be eerily pertinent to what we're saying.
That would be incredible.
But DJ, I also grew up in a very, very heavily practicing Catholic household.
Yeah.
And in learning about all this, like, religious stuff, and also being a nerd and being into like all sorts of like otherworldly kind of cool shit. Cause like I remember looking through the Bible and being like, there's like demons and like hell and creatures and like magic in this.
Yeah.
And that's like pretty cool and nerdy. And I remember my creative mind like taking all of that and being like, whoa, this is like kind of cool actually. It's like cool that it's like there's cool creatures and demons and stuff. And then it helped it made my imagination go nuts with like the possibilities of combining these themes of religion and then bringing in fantasy and sci-fi and horror and like mixing it all up. And that's why I've always loved like possession movies and like, because in Catholicism, possessions and exorcisms are like kind of a real thing. So it's like, you know, it was ingrained in me that this was like terrifying shit I should be scared of. And so when creative people started making movies about it, it was like, oh shit, this is exactly the kind of shit I was looking for.
Yeah, it's so funny because my wife was raised Catholic as well, and so she'll be like, so we'll like hear a sound. Yeah. And she'd be like, do you like, and we'll be like, oh, and she's like, do you think it's a ghost? Like, no, I'm worried like it's a dude. I'm worried. I'm not
It's
on
a
the
what? You
ghost
cut out?
demon page.
It's a dude.
Yeah, I'm worried it's
some
a dude.
guy.
I'm not worried about a demon or whatever. I was raised
person.
Baptist. We're not as worried about that. I'm worried about a dude with a gun is what I'm worried about.
Yep.
Dude, it's so funny. I talk to Owen about this all the time. Name drop Owen Carter. But Owen's like, man, sorry, Elliot. I know you don't like the name drops from me. It's
I don't
real
like
gross.
him, and I don't like the name drop.
Elliot and Owen have a standing feud, and Elliot has asked me kindly not to mention him on the shows, but
Pretend he doesn't exist when I'm around.
but he says to me, he goes, these ghost movies and these like thank you, Elliot. Did you find Corinthians?
What did you say? It was 236?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was 236.
Doesn't exist.
Maybe
dang
shit.
it.
I'm reading the King James version. Which one's that?
Oh, yeah, you're right. Yeah, that's it.
But there's a couple of chapters missing in the other versions. But Owen would say ghost movies and like movies with like possessions and shit aren't scary to him at all because he doesn't believe in any of that shit. Like ghosts is not even a possibility. And like for me, it's like I just want it to be real because I think it would be really cool to like blow our minds with what our levels of reality and consciousness are. And I just want that experience.
Yeah, I'm a big like you know, obviously we just talked about grew up in the church and everything, and so like but I think for me like you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like the idea like for anybody to definitively say where like, well, this can't be real or that can't be real or there's like no God or whatever. It's like, I mean, maybe, but like maybe not. Like I don't know because it's like we barely left our own backyard. Like we've only gone to like this universe is a big universe. I don't know.
Yeah, because it is like there's just too many coincidences, and it's really hard to like pinpoint that on any kind of science when you get real down to it.
Yeah,
but I don't know. I like to believe in Elliot. Where are you? What was that book?
I got this because I got in another book I was reading, one of my UFO pastimes. He recommended this book called The Trickster and the Paranormal, and I haven't read it yet, obviously, because it's very crisp. But I was like, oh, this is an interesting. I like
What's it about?
Stuff. I think Trickster is basically an archetype, and this is basically going into the idea that a lot of paranormal phenomena functions to kind of disrupt or like. Just kind of the trickster governs paradox. Yeah, paradoxes, irrational things, where the messages are concealed. I guess I don't know. I haven't read it.
Wow, is this nonfiction?
I think so. I think he's at Rhine Research Center laboratories.
Whoa! So this is like a study into how the archetype of the trickster utilizes like unexplainable phenomenon to create.
Yeah, it kind of goes back to the idea that like a lot of the UFO sightings are just like the same thing that's been going on for thousands of years, but it's wrapped in like a science fiction. Ever since, you know, we started going to the moon, all these things became spaceships, but before that, they were angels, and before that, they were all these other things.
First off, I want to say when Steve was like, "What is that book?" I didn't know another book had entered the picture. I thought it was the Bible. What is that, Elliot? What is that book you've got there?
Elliot, what's that book that we were looking through and trying to find Corinthians? Let's talk about it.
Okay.
Let's talk about that a little bit.
This is called.
But like, we want to believe. That's part of like the human condition is we want to, and it does take whether you do believe in that stuff like that. The way we talk about it culturally, evolves. It's like gods and angels, or then it becomes aliens, or then when people kind of talk about like us being in a simulation, it's like, well, that's functionally. That doesn't functionally change my life. That's still you're basically just finding a new way to describe God and stuff like that.
Yep. And it kind of comes down to whatever you're comfortable with, right?
Yeah.
Like whatever makes you sleep well at night.
Yeah.
It's like because no one's really right. Some people could be wrong, I guess, in some ways, but there's no way to be complete.
Yeah.
But there's no, like, you're right, DJ. I like the idea that, like, because that's why, like, in my rebellious years, I was like, I'm an atheist. Like, fuck the idea of God is created by pieces of shits to create power over us, to have a power dynamic. But now I'm like, but also, like, I don't know shit. Mm-hmm. So I'm way more of an agnostic at this point.
I feel like,
yeah.
There's I've noticed a trend, and I don't know if there's any truth to this, but it seems like, because I know Grace grew up Catholic, and she kind of also went through that same arc of like, F it, there's none of this.
There's no thing, yeah.
But then when I see people like DJ or myself, it tends to go like, you might go through a little bit of that, but then it also kind of can veer toward mysticism very frequently, or a little bit more like, not agnostic, but I guess kind of whatever it would be. But I don't know. It seems like a very common thing in Catholics,
right?
Just like, I don't like it.
Yeah, and then it's like Catholics get old and then they find God again.
Yeah, they
like
go back to Catholicism. Listen, Catholicism is hard on the youths.
It is because it's so like they very much want you to like recall and never forget the absolute suffering of Jesus. Like they want you to really know that motherfucker suffered. Like it's like, and it's like, yeah, we get it. He was crucified. Like that's like, I can't even imagine the pain. So it's like, but they really want you to see the blood and the fucking vomit and shit, and it's like it scares the shit out of you, and it's a tactic, But yeah, you're right. Like there's just so much of this stuff that's just like, I don't know, man. I guess we don't know shit. We don't know anything, and all we have is our experiences and kind of our what we experience in our waking life individually. And I guess like whatever that path is either leads to you being like comfortable with this or comfortable with that. Because I love the simulation theory these days, because it really is kind of interesting to be like, well, yeah, I mean, I get, you're right though. It's like you're saying it's God in a different way, because it is like being created still somehow. This like simulation was created by something in that instance, but it's like, if you want to believe that, it's not going to change my life, like you said. It's not going to really make anything different in my life. Even if I found out that was real, it wouldn't make a difference, really.
Yeah, because it functionally like code or atoms, like whatever. Unless you can teach me a way to like fuck with the code, and then
like some Matrix shit.
Exactly. Can I beep beep boop and make my poop a little less hard? Like, is that something I can do, or like
just tiny things?
Just tiny. Like I don't need to fly or anything. I just little
life hacks.
Can I?
I know a guy who swears that if you take a certain specific amount of DMT and combine it with a $2 laser from China, that you can see the coding behind.
Whoa!
And this is no hate, no shade, but I love like the DMT mushroom crowd. I love because everything comes back to like, well, if you took these mushrooms, like, yeah, I get it. All right, I get it.
Dude,
if you just ingested this thing.
You know what is interesting though, and this kind of goes back to like Elliot's book there that he just got, and the idea.
The Bible, Steve.
Yeah.
You can just call it the Bible.
Yeah, but I don't have one, and only you do that I know of. So I'm calling it Elliot's book. Elliot's book.
Dude, you got to be careful. Elliot knows this. When you grow up in the process, that they will try to market the Bible every way. Like, this is now Elliot's book. We wrote it in a different way.
Yeah.
It's cool now. It's like, all right.
Dude, Elliot's book is my favorite David Ross color.
Deep cut.
But like, I've always liked the theories. I mean, I always love talking about this shit. And DJ and Elliot, like we can really get into it about like paranormal and alien shit and sci-fi stuff and mysticism and movies and all sorts of shit. Which we'll get to movies and TV in a sec because I want to know what you're watching and what you love, kind of like what you do with me when I go on your shows. But way less structured. But I love the theory that alien abductions are like people recalling like being born. Mm-hmm. And it comes back to them in adulthood in some way. And they see like beings that they don't recognize around them, like doing medical things to them. And they see bright lights because there's like hospital room lights. And like, I love that theory a lot. Because it makes me feel like, it brings logic into this like illogical kind of idea. And it's really fun to consider that that's really what that is like people just remembering being born or having an operation or something.
Yeah. And it just kind of like to revisit it.
Yeah, because it connects to like this DMT thing where like everyone has this like same being experience where like it takes them to these like beings that like then take them on a little journey or something. And everybody talks about how it's like this same experience where you meet these beings. Yeah. And it's like, well, what the fuck is that? Why does everybody have that experience?
Which I think the more supernatural explanation is that there are beings beyond. I like the idea that it's us recalling our birth. But yeah, but it's also like, again, you just don't know. We know so much. And I think humanity has a tendency to think that means we know everything.
I know.
And it's like, but you kind of, there's just stuff that like we don't know, and we don't even know that we don't know. We're not even aware that we're not.
Right. Which is why sci-fi gets cool. Because then someone's just like, what if this happens? And you're like, whoa, I never thought of that.
Yeah.
The guy, I think his name's Stanislav Grof, and he did a bunch of the transpersonal psychological stuff, especially with the birthing process. And his whole thing is like, basically, when we're born, we have a life, like a death in the process of being born, because our heads are getting crushed and where there's no light, and we're being passed through this thing, and we're sure we're gonna die. And then we come out the other end, and then oh my god, we're alive, and there's lights everywhere, and what is this? And it's crazy, and who's slapping me? And so basically, it's like every single person is, unless maybe C-section, but still same idea. It's still the same thing going on. You still end up like, you essentially start out life with a big death, and that's kind of wild to think about.
Which then like kind of comes back around when you get old, because there's you start to like lose the things that you learned in your life, and you kind of essentially head back to like a birth death in the end, kind of, which is so interesting. And again, like you said, like DJ, we can't comprehend why that's connected, and we can't comprehend why when you zoom in on your eye, it looks like space stuff. Like you could, like we can't comprehend it. It's like certainly there's people smarter than us digging into it, but I really love that there's like so much we don't know. What do you think the next big scientific philosophical breakthrough will be? Because I think we're with aliens, like you think, well, aliens seems like the closest sci-fi weird thing that's gonna like be real now. But it seems like it's we have more than enough proof that it is real, and nobody seems to give a shit. But what's something that everyone would like? What do you think is the next advancement of like, we have no idea what it is yet? Like, what could it be?
I'm trying to think of, so like the next thing of like a game changer.
Game changer. Like, cause we can talk about like what, like, penicillin being a big, huge scientific milestone.
I mean, the internet,
the discovery of I mean, there's a lot of stuff about the human body we learned. Like the gut biome is like really important to our just in general to our even our psychological health and stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, I think the next, when it comes to like breakthrough stuff, I think we're putting ourselves in a position where we're going to have to, this isn't a fun answer, sorry.
No,
we're going to have to figure out the climate change situation.
Oh, man.
Because, the preventative stuff, which is a little worrying because it's like I feel like that's to the degree of like finding a cure for cancer, where it's like good luck.
Yep,
I know.
But as far as fun stuff, I think with you'd have to figure out how do we get off of the rock we're on faster than we are capable of now, which I feel like is tied into we're now well beyond my pay grade, but I think it would be tied into. Obviously, like in science fiction, we talk about faster than light travel, but I feel like also that's tied to like a better understanding of like gravity. But like, how can we get to Mars in less than months?
Yeah, and like, so maybe the next big thing is like we've found a habitable planet that is possible to reach within means. Yeah,
I think I'm gonna go down with the ship.
I think so too, Elliot.
I don't want to go Mars.
I don't either. I don't want to leave this planet. This is my home, I think.
Do you guys, have either of you watched the show The Expanse?
No, but I've heard great things. Tell us about it.
It is incredible. So it is close to hard sci-fi. Like it treats everything in a very grounded manner, to the point where like if you're gonna go like high G space travel, you literally have to have something pumped into your brains into your body at the same time, or else your body will crush because you're going so fast.
Whoa.
Like really like gets down into it. But part of the big overarching story is there's a Cold War between the people on Earth. We've colonized Mars, and then there's people called Belters that are mining the asteroid belt, the Kuiper belt, for materials. And at a certain point, light spoilers, the Mars has built its entire societal structure around colonizing Mars, making Mars habitable. And then eventually later in the story, other habitable worlds are discovered that are just already habitable. Whoa. And so everybody that's colonized Mars for centuries at this point are like, oh, what now?
Shit.
Like our whole culture's been around trying to make this place a place we can live, and now we can just go someplace else. But it's our identity. Like we built our identity around the idea that we need to make this happen. Yeah.
So couldn't they just be like, well, this is just one habitable place eventually? Because it kind of doesn't.
But it's not really. It's not. That's the point. They're living in like dome cities. Like they're still not able to like just go out and see the sunset.
Isn't it interesting though that like even on our own planet, you think about how like, man, LA is a desert, right?
Yeah.
Like, and think about it like centuries ago, and it's like, how could this be habitable? How did they make Antarctica habitable?
Mm-hmm.
Like it seems kind of like an extreme version of that, right? Like everyone picks kind of a place on the planet to be like their little settlement, but it's like there's so many elements that are kind of like, no, you can't live here, that are just kind of fucking with it. And then there's people that live in like a paradise essentially and never have to worry about weather or whatever, or natural disasters. It kind of seems like the interplanetary version of that.
Like imagine living in like Orlando.
Ugh. Talk about uninhabitable.
Ew, gross.
They need to terraform Orlando. What are you watching, DJ?
What am I watching right now?
Yeah.
I've been watching The Old Man on FX.
Whoa, what's that? I always love talking to you about what you're watching because you're always like, you always pull out some shit like, oh, I'm watching The Wrench.
I'm watching The Wrench on HBO Max.
On HBO Max.
It's a British show.
It was a British show, and then it was a web series. They tried to make an American one. It didn't work.
It didn't work out.
Now
Weirdly, though, even though the American...
they did it animated.
Even though the American one was canceled, it still has like twice as many episodes as the British version. But
Exactly.
whatever. Yeah.
And the British one it has an end.
Yes.
That's what I love about British shit. Is like they know they're like we're doing 3 seasons and that's it.
Done. My mom's watching this ghost show, like a show like called Ghost. It's a scripted show, but it's a sitcom on like Paramount Plus or whatever, and it has like 30 episodes. And the British version that is based off of is on HBO Max, and it's like 12. It's like 12 episodes.
Yeah. That's so great. Dude, isn't that funny? Like even like Stranger Things is like seems like they could make it go on forever. Like these kids are getting way too old now, which is like so funny.
How old whatever. I'm not keeping up with I haven't kept up with Stranger Things.
But it's gonna go on forever. If Stranger Things was a British show, it would have been 2 seasons.
And done. It would have been that first season. We're like, we're good. That's fine.
And it would have been so good because of it.
Yeah, The Old Man. It's crazy that the show exists. It's a TV show starring Jeff Bridges and John Lithgow.
Whoa!
And yeah, it's insane. And they basically it's one of those things where it's actually a pretty, I guess standard's not the right word, but it's a pretty standard like old guy used to be CIA super badass and is now pulled back into the game. But it's done with such care and so deliberately that it's just, for me, I eat this stuff up. I'm into it. I love it. But basically Jeff Bridges plays this guy that fucked shit up in Afghanistan in the 90s. He was like a CIA op fighting Russians and shit. And then he ran away, found the woman he loved, ran away, has been off the grid for 30 plus years. And finally, the guy that he fucked over there wants him back, wants to get revenge. And so John Lithgow was a CIA operative at the time that helped him, and now he's one of the heads at the FBI. So John Lithgow's charged with trying to find him.
But he's got a past with him.
He's got a past with him. But his big thing is that he doesn't, if people start digging into Jeff Bridges' past, they're going to find out stuff he did that he doesn't want them to know. So they're like frenemies.
It's a moral dilemma.
Yeah.
It wrapped around some of the best actors of our current day.
In the first episode, there's just a phone conversation between the two of them, and it's Jeff Bridges and John Lithgow, and it's like, this is just so good.
Who's involved in this? Is it anybody behind the scenes that has made some good stuff?
So the thing that blew my mind, I was watching the first episode, and the credits hit, and it was directed by John Watts, the guy that's done the MCU Spider-Man movies.
Oh,
and the second his name popped up, I was like, fuck off, no way. And it's like, yeah, he directed the first 2 episodes. Incredible work.
Wow.
He's not the person, the showrunner is not somebody I'm familiar with off the top of my head.
Yeah, I wonder what else they've worked on and stuff. Because I love following all these showrunners that make really good shows, and then it's like, what are they doing next? Like, I can't wait to see what Lindelof does next, because I'm like chomping at the bit.
Do we not have any word on that?
We do. I think there is. Hang on, let me see. Damon Lindelof. There is what was it? I just saw something. Here we go.
I'm totally gonna check the show out. Thanks, DJ.
Yeah, Old Man. You can watch it on Hulu. I think it is 3 or 4 episodes deep at this point.
Yep. 4.
It's really like, it's just really remarkable. It's like slow burn stuff, but it does all the stuff like really well. I wanted to ask you, Elliot, based on our conversation earlier, are you watching Only Murders in the Building?
Yes.
It's so good.
Yeah.
I loved the first season so much, and I loved I really like the first episode. I'm only 1 episode in the second season so far.
Yeah.
Are you guys watching it?
Yeah, I loved first season 2.
I watched like 6, maybe 5 episodes of the first season, and I was absolutely delighted. But there's just too much shit out there. I can't keep up.
There's a lot.
Mrs. Davis is the next thing Damon Lindelof is doing. And the showrunner and executive producer and co-writer with Damon Lindelof is someone named something Hernandez.
Cool. It's an interesting name, something Hernandez.
Something.
That's an interesting
I think is that Greek?
Yeah.
Something?
Well, I actually, another thing I checked out that both you might have already seen. Have you heard anything about, or have you seen RRR?
Yes. Oh
It's
man.
so good.
Okay, look, Elliot, have you heard of this? RRR.
Never in my life.
Oh my
It's
God,
making
it's
the
so
rounds
good.
in the cinephile world, and it's breaking through a bit, kind of like how I think it's doing for Bollywood what Parasite did for Korean
cinema.
films.
Yeah.
We're seeing a Bollywood kind of like we're seeing Bollywood bleed into Hollywood a little bit,
Yeah.
and people are like, "Ooh, what's this?" And I love that this is people's kind of first taste into the Bollywood world, even though I would say that this isn't the greatest example of really good big Bollywood movies.
Yeah.
But there is musical moments, and it is a wonderful, wonderful movie. It's very long, so get your coffee.
It's a 3-hour epic. Yeah,
It's
for
a
sure.
3-hour epic. But Elliot, I think you should watch it, man. It's so good.
I feel like if you're not if you're not sold within like, what would you say, Steve? Like the first 10 minutes?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
this movie announces what
Great.
it is
All right.
immediately.
Yeah,
I'm
I
down for
love
that.
But also,
'Cause
like, go
I
ahead.
give every movie like a 15-minute. If it's a movie, I give it 15 minutes, and if
Yeah.
it's a TV show, give it about 10.
Right.
And
Yeah.
if it grabs, then we're good to go. So that's great. I could maybe do that. I just have to pee a lot.
Yeah, I know.
It's on Netflix though. It's on Netflix. You can pee whenever you want.
Or you could just
Okay,
you
all right.
could take it in chunks too, I think.
Yeah.
It is
there's-
on Netflix. All right.
Yeah, and there's specifically at the midway point, they like cut to a logo that is kind of like a perfect intermission point if you want to like.
And then you're like, "Here we go. Buckle up, baby." I loved it. And I think there's a lot of really good Bollywood out there. There's this one movie called Om Shanti Om,
Okay.
which is a really wonderful Bollywood movie that I highly recommend.
On my list. Let me put it on my list.
I wonder if it's on Netflix.
Not on 4th of July, Steve. Sorry.
Very
Those
funny.
are the rules. Those are the
Very
rules.
funny. Yeah, this is like a straight up like Moulin Rouge romance musical Bollywood, but it's so good. Om
It
Shanti
is.
Om.
It is. I'm going to put it on my list, dude.
Yeah, get it in there. And I want everyone to, I would love all my friends to really get into Bollywood stuff, because it's like, there's a lot of like it's not Western cinema. It's its own beast, and it's got its own tone and flow, and it's a little different. It might take a while to like kind of get used to it, but it's so big and beautiful and wonderful and well done. And
What about you, Steve? Is there something like you're watching, you're checking out that you're like?
Well, I just finished. I'm caught up on Stranger Things, and now I just need to watch these these cinematic movies they fucking made.
Yeah. So, quick question: as somebody that's not Elliot, are you watching Stranger Things?
Yeah.
Okay.
Are you caught up fully, or have you not watched the movies yet?
I'm like they give her calling them movies. They are movies. I'm like a third into the last one.
Okay.
The
So
most
you guys can
recent.
clarify a question I have, because I haven't watched since season 2. I was under the impression that the Kate Bush song was in one scene. Is that not the case?
You know,
People love this Kate Bush song.
they love the fucking Kate Bush song.
Yeah.
And I'm worried they're gonna push it too much in these movies. But yeah, man,
It
you're
feels
right.
like every time I hit a clip, like people post clips, and I'm like, I want to see what it's about. And I was like, it's always the song. I'm like, are they editing this in?
Well, the
Or
best
is
part,
this-
the thing is they've successfully emotionally manipulated people since season 2.
Yeah.
I think season 1 of Stranger Things was an absolute unfiltered love letter to the 80s in a way that we hadn't really seen done yet. I think a lot of people tried to do it, but it just didn't catch on. And it was only a matter of time before someone took a CW kind of like sensibility and throw the 80s into it, and then mix it up with like some violence and horror and stuff. And that's really the essence of that show. But I feel like season 1 was like beautiful and perfect, and then season 2 was like, some executive told them to push hard into the 80s stuff, and kind of the story is secondary, and I really didn't like it. And season 3 was like, okay, we're a little better, still kind of pushing too hard into the 80s stuff. And then this season 4, dude, is the best since season 1 for sure.
Everything that you just said, Steve, is 100% correct.
Yeah.
From
you feel
my
the same
opinion.
way?
Absolutely. You just that perfectly articulated.
Right? It's been a while, but we're back.
Yeah, it's so good. I love this season so much.
It's just really well done, dude. And the Kate Bush thing, it's not even the best Kate Bush song. And they just used it in an emotional way that made everyone go, yeah. They just manipulated everybody.
Yeah. So I had a friend tell me that I could probably, because again, I stopped after season 2, that I could probably just jump right in season 4. Does that feel right or not? Or do I need to get through season 3?
You could do a recap of 3. 3 was kind of hard to get through for a while. I was just like, where are we going with this shit? It was just
it gets a little. Even season 4 because it starts out so ridiculous in some of the storylines that have been set up by season 3 might be good to check. Otherwise, you'd be like, why are they here?
Why is this happening?
Actually, Elliot, that's a really good point, because by the time you're in season 4, you're like, okay, well, we're essentially in a cartoon world that like where the rules don't matter and like everyone's got plot armor on and like, you know, but I do like that anyone can die at any moment and you just don't know who's safe, really. And I think that's a really good way to make a show with beloved characters. Like Game of Thrones really grabbed people because they were like, we're just gonna fucking kill off your favorite characters one by one, and so that by the time we get to the 3rd season, you're like, no one's safe, and you're just like, I think Stranger Things did a really good job of making you fall in love with these characters and then have them kind of die. And you're like, okay, well, then no one's safe. Yeah. And it really makes it raises the stakes of the show. And I think it's really important that the stakes are super high. And I don't know if you're going to get the full feeling of that unless you watch those. I hate saying that, DJ, because it's such a season 3 is going to be rough, man.
Well, like you said, there's just a lot. There's a lot. I think Better Call Saul's coming back.
Oh,
that's gonna be a priority.
I gotta get caught up on it. Yeah.
Oh,
Dude,
it's so good.
One more thing I wanted to say about Stranger Things is because I really want, like, man, I shit on it a lot, but the good things are good. Yeah. And this season, like I said, is just really well constructed. They've gone way past the 80s thing and are now just kind of like living in a story that's really compelling and good. But here's something that they do really well. They introduce new characters on the show and instantly you love them.
Instantly.
It's so strange. I don't understand how. They just understand how to bring a character in, because like it's so risky when you have a beloved cast and then you throw in this new character and you're like, everyone's gonna love Poochie now. Poochie's just here and they've been there the whole time. And that's the other thing. I'm glad they didn't do the thing they did on Lost, which was like eventually they brought out these background characters and they're like, this supermodel has been here the whole time and they all know them and they're all really familiar with them, but we don't know them. And it's like, wait a minute, who's this? But they're just so good at bringing in new characters and then having you instantly fall in love with them. It's a unique thing. I've never really seen. I feel like
great writing. Good
great writing. Dude, Barry is another show.
Whoa, yep. Barry this season,
dude,
went for the throat.
It does not care. It's unbelievable.
And
is it a comedy? I don't think it's a comedy.
I don't think it's a comedy anymore.
I know. This season's insane, tackling like domestic abuse and like way more trauma stuff.
It's basically an existential nightmare. Like every episode is an existential nightmare.
Well, it's kind of like we're seeing the consequences of this kind of frivolous, let's just kill people like we're having fast food.
Yeah.
And we're seeing the consequences of it. And it's really cool to see that, because it was fun to play in the world of like, there's zero consequences. These people are killing machines. And we see that a lot. Every time you have like a fucking assassin movie, it's like they never talk about the consequences of killing all these people pretty much, other than using it as a moral kind of like storyline. Like, should I keep doing
abstraction.
this? It's an easy way for people to be like, nothing's black and white. Like, some things are gray and but Barry is just like, fuck. It's like another show where the stakes are really high for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, the so a lot of standout scenes this season in Barry. Obviously, the highway chase was incredible.
Oh my
incredible.
God!
Now I haven't seen the most recent episode. I don't think I've seen the most recent.
The
Was there one last
finale.
night?
There's a finale. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I got
yeah.
a busy day. I got a busy 4th of July ahead of me,
4th
boys.
Of July, you got to catch up on Barry.
Dude,
But
yes. Do it for America.
Do it for the country.
The finale.
The
Elliot,
season finale.
Yeah, this
great.
isn't the season. But Elliot, where are you at with Barry's relationship with his lady friend, with Sally?
They got spoiler alert. They got basically broken up because he yelled at her, and he was like, "What's the big deal? It's not like I, killed anybody."
Yeah.
And, and then he's getting chased, I think, by like the
motorcycle folks.
Yeah.
No, got through that. Yeah.
Okay. So you're
Now I'm getting it confused with Righteous Gemstones.
that's true.
I know, because there's another motorcycle gang in that one.
Are you at the bit where Barry tries to, let's say he tries to help Sally with a work problem, and it's like a full mask off moment. For
I think I'm about there. Yeah. I think it's
good. All
I
right,
think I kind of saw
moment.
that. I think I saw that coming. I think I was like, I know that what. Yeah. I think I know.
Okay. All right. I won't say anymore, but that scene where he's
it's
talking to
happening.
Sally.
Yeah.
Isn't
it wonderful?
Great.
We're so spoiled with like really good TV right now.
Yeah.
And it's like knocking the movie industry off its like rocker. Yeah. Like we still get really good movies and shit, but man, TV's been killing it right now.
Yeah.
You know what we need more good of though? Comic books.
Yeah, Elliot, and it's a really good thing that you brought it back. I was gonna, my segue to Hellbent was, so we talked about, and thank you, Elliot. And so we talked about how in the UK they know how to end shit, and here they just go and go and go because that's where the money is, or maybe people love it or whatever. I don't know. Hardly it's that reason. Do you have an end for Hellbent, and do you know where it is, and have you announced that at all?
Great question.
we know where we're going. We came up with basically before we even started doing the art for part 1, we knew that it was a 3-part story. We had an outline for all 3 parts. And so now this is part 2. Part 2's done well enough that we're gearing up to start working on part 3. And that will be, that will be the end of this story. We might in the future, if there's a big response, return to these characters. But that the story we've been telling, that will be the end of this story.
I thank you for that, because I love to hear things end and have an end that was planned. And a lot of people like to say, well, we had this plan from the beginning, but sometimes that's not true. But
well, and plans change, like the exact, like the specifics change as the story evolves and as we're telling it. But we know, like, I didn't want to be in a position where like I told an incomplete story. I wanted people to have like a full 3-act, all this stuff is resolved.
Right.
So that was the
good. That's important.
That's the goal.
Dude, I was talking to a friend the other day, and they were like, have you seen this? Have you seen this? Have you seen this? Have you seen this? And there are all these shows that have like maybe 2 seasons that sound so fucking cool. It's shit like, man, the first episode starts and this woman just appears in the middle of an airport and nobody knows who she is. And she doesn't have her ID on her, but one of the pilots knows her. And it's like, ooh, that sounds. I'm interested. I'm like, where does that go? And they go, well, it got canceled, so it doesn't have it. And there's so many shows that just got canceled before they end, but they sound so cool and good.
I liked Raised by Wolves. I got pretty attached to that.
Yeah, Raised by Wolves is that also is one of those shows that's so bleak. That's so like
especially
what you think this
season?
is the worst things can get? No, sorry. It's worse than that.
Is it more bleak than Chernobyl?
Well, Chernobyl's a real story, so I'm going to say no.
Wait, what? Wait, I thought that was science fiction.
No,
cut it off. Cut it off.
Wait,
not on 4th of July.
Not on 4th of July.
No, but and I think it's important. You mentioned stuff like Game of Thrones and Lost. I think part of some of the backlash near the end of those shows is when you tease out a story for so long, people start filling in their own gaps and coming out with their own expectations.
Oh,
It becomes really challenging. So I think the shows that I've seen that I think are really successful, each season continues from the previous one, but it's also like a self-contained thought. Like it's its own. Like I think one of the best structured shows I've seen is a lot of FX shows. The Shield, Justified did this. Like I'm a little. Have either of you or both of you watched Severance? The Apple.
Yeah, loved Severance, dude.
Unbelievable.
It's so well made. Yeah,
but like I had to, because I didn't watch Lost religiously, so I had to ask some friends like, "Was this what it was like watching Lost?" And they were like, "Yeah." And I'm like, "Oh, this is an incredible feeling." But now I'm worried that like how many seasons? Because when I first started watching it, I thought it was a. This happens to me on a lot of shows. I assume it's a mini series.
Right.
And it's like, no, multiple. The Old Man, I just found out The Old Man has been renewed for a second season. I'm like, but this felt like a self-contained. What does that mean? A second season?
Yeah. Well, when they're talking about Obi-Wan too, they're like, and like Ewan McGregor wants to do another one. And I'm like, man, did you watch that? Did everyone watch Obi-Wan? Elliot, did you finish it?
Yeah,
dude, I was like, I think they put a nice little bow on this. We don't need another one.
The whole marketing for Disney Plus for a long time has been stories don't need to end, and it's like, is that a threat? Are you? Is this?
You think this shit's over?
I don't know that should be the takeaway.
Stories don't need to end. Neither will your subscription.
Your story doesn't end. Why should ours?
So,
are you looking forward to anything coming up? The Lord of the Rings show, the Game of Thrones spinoff.
I'm worried about the Lord of the Rings show because it feels like Lord of the Rings felt so engineered to tell that singular story that I don't know. Like, I don't know that I care about like 1,000 years in the past. Same thing with House of Dragons. Like, I don't know that I care about that.
It kind of feels like they're gonna just be like, it could very easily be distracted by trying to be like a modern Game of Thrones kind of I feel like people are gonna be like, it's Game of Thrones in the Lord of the Rings world, and it's like, can't we just get new fantasy stuff? Like, why don't we just get a new fantasy thing? And it's because, well, people want to put their money on IP. Yeah.
But it becomes this real, like, it was tough with Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan had this really thin window of like, not only does it have to worry about Revenge of the Sith and New Hope, but also the Rebels TV show. And it's like, it just becomes this really challenging, the more that you like dig into those parts. Like, it makes what Better Call Saul did just even more impressive. Of like, I know that Saul ends up in Breaking Bad, but I honestly don't know how we resolve the situation.
I know. And with Better Call Saul, it's like, I love that they're like, well, you know what happens, but we've been showing you beyond that kind of too. And that's been really fun and cool to see Vince Gilligan and company kind of fuck around in there.
It's really, so I'm excited for that to come back. I don't know about you all. I feel like I discover stuff like, especially like the good things you only find out about like it's on the air now, like the show The Bear just dropped, and I've watched the first few episodes of that, and it's like I didn't know to even be on the lookout for that show.
That's the thing. It just comes at you so hard. I've also not heard of it. It just sounds like another thing you made up.
No, it's another FX on Hulu show.
Okay, but sure, dude. Sure, dude.
Yeah, sure. On 4th of July.
Yeah, that's a show. Right. On the 4th of July. Yeah, okay. Convenient.
I guess like season, like we're getting another season of What We Do in the Shadows. We're getting, we just started. Have you guys checked out Wellington Paranormal?
Dude, I love it so much.
It's so fucking funny.
Elliot, you need to watch it.
I think I have seen. Is that what's his name? Simon?
The Taika Waititi. No.
It's Jermaine Clement and Taika Waititi's other show.
It's another spin-off of What We Do in the Shadows.
It's a spin-off of What We Do in the Shadows, but it's been going on for a long time in New Zealand. And we finally got it here like 3 or 4 months ago or something. But it's
great,
dude. It's just another What We Do in the Shadows, but it's like bumbling like police officers in New Zealand that get tasked with working with a secret wing of the
Yeah,
of
yeah.
to like do paranormal shit.
And it's
so
taken
good.
me the all like I think Steve, are we in like season 3 or something?
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
taken me 3 seasons, but I think like the whole time I've been like, what makes this like Kiwi humor
I
like so
know.
special? And I think there's this layer of politeness to everything
Yeah.
that makes everything so much funnier.
And I love the casting. The casting is like perfect. These are people that are just like your mom's friend that like you see at the coffee shop that's a little weird.
The other thing you guys should keep an eye out for if you haven't checked it out is and we should be getting another season of that is Reservation Dogs, which is another Taika Waititi.
Dude,
oh yeah,
that's a
I
great
watched
show.
that. Yeah, is it back? Is there?
It's not back yet. It's not back yet. But we
Okay.
should.
But
be
it did
getting,
get picked
That
up.
show.
Yeah.
That show was one of those shows that's like, oh yeah, this is what you get when you laugh and you cry, and it just has every
100%.
You know what it makes me feel like? It makes me feel like it's only going to be a matter of time before we get like a Wes Anderson show.
Well, you're not wrong because I think they're doing a Justified revival, and I think Tarantino's supposed to be directing a few episodes of that. So
and
it's just
remember Tarantino was tapped to do like a Star Trek.
wow, dude, that's how it feels like that the Barbie movie we're seeing stills of, but it's like I have trouble. It's crazy. The Barbie movie, the Greta Gerwig Barbie movie, is if that Tarantino Star Trek movie happened, and you're like, I can't believe that this is actually a thing.
Exactly.
That I'm going to be able to put into my eyeballs.
I know. The Boys.
Yeah.
The Boys. Elliot, do you watch The Boys?
It's too much for me. It's too
Dude,
graphic.
I get it.
It is a lot.
I get it.
A lot.
Oh
I've
man, but
actually-
it's so good.
It lost me at season 2, and I was just like, I'm not cool or edgy enough to.
Dude, but Elliot, the commentary and the what they're saying and how well it's written is like you really need, dude. And this new season,
I'll go back at some point.
Please do yourself a favor and like look. If you got to look away or cover your eyes sometimes, I think that's fine.
If it was too intense, it's not going to get any less that.
It's certainly
Yeah, exactly.
not,
I was like, and I kept thinking that during the second season. I was like, and then there was one scene, I forget what it was. I was like, all right, that's enough of that.
There's literally a sequence in the first episode of this season that I was like, this is the most fucked up thing they've done. This is the most fucked up thing.
I honestly was.
You gotta respect it. I mean,
I was like, are they just sitting in their writers' room going like, how do we pay off this moment?
So Steve, are you caught up? So you've seen the Hero-gasm episode?
I think I just finished it. I just finished when the deep is like Hero-gasm, and then that was like the end of that episode or whatever.
No, yeah, okay. So you haven't actually seen like
I don't know what it is.
Okay. I think that actually was like halfway through that episode. So you need to finish that episode immediately because I think it's the best episode, not because of Hero-gasm, but I think it's the best episode.
Can you give me just a slight a tease of what you're talking about? Because maybe I did see it.
Without spoiling anything, that
Is it
episode that the most things happen that episode. We resolve a lot of okay, I'll give you a light. Homelander and Soldier Boy come face to face.
Oh, I'm ready, baby.
Okay,
I'm ready.
Yeah,
all right.
Elliot's over there reading the Bible. Where are we in the Bible, Elliot?
Where are you in the Bible?
Yeah.
just being better than you. I'm just being...
All right. Well, look, DJ.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us. What a fun episode. Where can people find Hellbent, and where can they give us a plug?
I hope I said this earlier in the episode. Hellbentcomicbook.com. Go to hellbentcomicbook.com. If you go to Kickstarter, you just type in Hellbent, it should pop up. And like I mentioned earlier, if you missed volume 1, you can get both volumes 1 and 2. You can get drawn into a scene featuring characters from the comic by Heather Vaughn. That's a tier in there. Cool variant covers. We got tarot cards. We got a whole bunch of stuff. It's an incredible team of women and queer creators that I'm lucky enough to collaborate with. And it is a story that is almost, unfortunately, more relevant than ever. So
yeah, sounds like it.
Yeah, so please go support it. I think you'll love it. Check it out. And thank you all for having me. I love coming on the show. I love shooting.
Dude, nice chatting.
Dude, DJ, and can I say that like representation in comics is definitely kind of like a new or better representation of all types of everyone is it's better in comics now. And I feel like I love that you're working closely with people to bring that to your kind of world, because I know that you are you've got a good sense of story and a good sense of like character stuff, and I know it won't be like hacky, cringy. It's gonna be done well and appropriate and respectfully.
Well, I think the thing is, like, and you guys are probably the same way. Like, that's something we all respond to. We just respond to authenticity. You know what I mean? And so there's aspects of this. Like, I have a lot of love in the story and stuff like that. And but it comes down to like bringing in people that will elevate it. That's you all know, you all work on projects. It's important to surround yourself with people that are smarter and better than you are. So that's all. That's all that I did.
It's very easy for us.
That are better at this stuff than I am.
But see, a lot of people do that, but then they like don't have the know-how. They don't have like the structure. They don't have the writing tools in their brain. And you do. And I like when people who have a handle on how to like work a story structure can also like bring authentic, respectful representation into the fold.
Yeah.
You are creating high quality products, which makes it very easy and fun to talk about.
Exactly. And it's the kind of representation I want to see is where it's done well and it's respectful.
And you're a sweetheart.
And you're a sweetheart.
Thank you.
And we appreciate you, DJ, and we miss you, and hopefully we'll see you in person soon.
Yes.
That'd be nice.
Let's all go to church together. Let's
all go.
Absolutely.
I'd love it. In fact, can we pray really quick before we go?
Yes. Please.
Not on 4th of July.
Not on 4th of July.
All right. Well, Elliot, anything else you want to add? Wonderful. Okay, well, please watch Wellington Paranormal, Elliot. And also, here's a little teaser for the next Valley cast. Elliot went to Disneyland, and I want to talk all about it. So next time we do this, I would like to dedicate quite a bit of time to that adventure, if that's okay.
I would love to talk to you about it.
Wonderful. All right, well.
Thanks, DJ.
Thanks, DJ. Thank you to everyone listening.
We know how to end things. It just kind of, trails off.
It gets there. Well, thank you to the patrons. Thank you to everyone listening. And please watch the video version of this so you can see DJ's really cool little set there and his handsome face. And Elliot's sight gags, which are always good.
Just having fun.
YouTube.com/The Valleyfolk for that video version. And we'll catch you guys next time on the show. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.